What's happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. Today we got another huge update. Now you guys can probably already tell that it is going down. Just by that title alone, you guys are definitely gonna want to check this one out. So we got that Democratic Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker crossing that point of no return as he is now continuing his fight against President Trump's efforts to clean up the migrant and crime crisis across his state by inciting violence against our ICE agents and federal troops, guys. And I'm excited to get into this one. So when I'm straight into it, all I ask that you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and without further ado, let's hop straight into it, folks. Check this one out.
We have to save this country from what Donald Trump is doing to it, because no, I do not want this country to become like other authoritarian regimes. People have criticized me for talking about the Nazi regime. On the right, people have criticized me. It's the one I know most about because I helped to build a Holocaust museum, and I can tell you, sitting next to Holocaust survivors, that what they will say in this moment is, this is what happened. This is what happened. People's rights started getting taken away. People got accused of being immigrants. This is before the Holocaust really took place. People were accused of being immigrants, and then laws were passed to limit immigrants, and then people who weren't actually immigrants were called immigrants, and then it was othering people, and that led to a lot worse things. What I'm saying is that this is how authoritarian regimes do it. They create these kind of fake ideas that there's an enemy out there and it could be sitting next to you at one of these tables. And so just somebody at your table that you don't like might be one of those enemies. And so let's round them up. Let's make sure that they are the subject of the laws that we're passing because we don't like who they are. That is what authoritarian regimes do. And I have to say, you know, I can't not speak out about that. But it starts with that anybody who's progressive is for open borders.
Well, some people are.
Well, I'll tell you that Democrats are not for open border. I mean, we had a real problem, and we needed to do something about the border. But now we need to do something about the people who work for you and work for other people who are here and law-abiding, doing the right thing, and they want to be good Americans. They want a path towards staying in this country, whether we call it citizenship or just legal residency. We need to give them that path, and we're not doing it today. And the Republicans have never proposed this under Donald Trump. He wants to do something about immigration. He should have come into office, and right away he had control of the House and the Senate, the presidency. Could have passed immigration reform.
All right, folks, and once again, I'm going to say this type of rhetoric, this inflammatory rhetoric, is exactly what led us to the threats on President Donald Trump's life. What we've seen happen to our friend Charlie Kirk is the demonization of folks on the right from these loonies on the left. This has to stop. When are we going to give in? When are we going to draw the line on these folks and hold them accountable for continuing to demonize and incite violence against everyone on the right or anyone who opposes their politics? This stuff is sickening. And meanwhile, we got his counterpart in that Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson going full socialist mode on us and demanding a tax hike for those that are rich in the city of Chicago to compensate for his failed budget. I want you guys to see this.
We are asking large corporations and big tech companies that have made trillions of dollars to pitch in a little bit more.
Mayor Brandon Johnson promises to protect Chicago, he says, from the Trump administration.
They chose the wrong city to pick a fight with. We are Chicago.
His plan proposes a first-of-its-kind social media tax to pay for mental health services, which Johnson estimates would raise $31 million by requiring social media companies to pay 50 cents per active user over 100,000 users in Chicago. He proposes declaring a record-breaking TIF surplus, $1 billion, to help close the budget gap. Over half of those dollars would go to Chicago's public schools, and a rebrand on the head tax, now called a community safety surcharge, which would apply to 3% of large corporations, $21 per employee per month. Chicago's Progressive Caucus cautiously optimistic about this budget plan.
Property tax increases alone aren't going to help us
keep up with the rising costs of the continued services that we know our constituents want.
So we can see both that Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor J.B. Pritzker do not know what they're doing or how to do their jobs properly. And we got Vice President J.D. Vance actually calling them both out, saying that none of this craziness would be needed if they were actually doing their jobs properly.
Well, I think Governor Pritzker has certainly failed to keep the people of Illinois safe. And it's interesting to me, you know, Governor Pritzker will talk a lot, I'm sure, about how bad Donald Trump is, about how bad I am, and about how bad the administration is. He is the governor of a state that where its biggest city has murder rates that rival the most violent places in the third world, George. Why is he so mad at Donald Trump for trying to keep Chicagoans safe? He should be mad at the criminals that he has failed to keep at bay. We're trying to help him, and we're trying to help the residents of his biggest city. I wish that he would let us, because he certainly isn't doing the job himself.
And there's Vice President J.D. Vance coming out with the bottom line here, saying, hey, none of our efforts to clean up your state would be needed or necessary if you guys were actually able to do your job. And Vice President J.D. Vance is not the only one that's calling out the leadership over there in the state of Illinois. We also got residents absolutely losing it on Mayor Brandon Johnson at a town hall. I want you guys to take a look at this.
I want to know, how does it feel that Trump is in office right now? You see the Mayor Brandon Johnson? You underestimate us. You underestimate the black people, and you underestimate Chicago Red. We're the thorn in your side, and we're going to be the thorn on everybody else in this council member side too. If you don't stop what you're doing, we're going to take matters in our own hand, and we're going to stop it. You know that Trump had pulled 45% of the voter in the state of Illinois, 37 in the city of Chicago. That's the statistic. That means that Illinois is turning purple. We're going to turn red.
Y'all can bird dog me all y'all want, but if it's relationship over duty, then y'all don't serve the blue. And you can smirk all you want.
Mr. Sims, direct your attention towards me, please.
You're a criminal. Why do I got to address you? The feds need to address you. DOJ need to address you, and hopefully Donald Trump will address you. Because you're going to protect the undocumented. Why you going to allow for the citizens in Chicago to suffer under your, 33%? See, Joe Lopez cooked that 3% up a long time ago. Y'all called it a circuit breaker. Y'all been talked about it. Remember, before you came in here and gave that jovial speech, you need to be inspected. You and that creep over there.
Wow, you just can't help but to relate to the frustrations coming from these residents that are living and going through it, seeing it every single day. They're saying to their Democratic leadership that, hey, if you're not going to do anything, you're going to continue to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear on all of our calls and cries for help. Step out of the way when the man comes to town that actually is going to do something to help us benefit and clean up our state and our city. And that's got them frightened. That's got J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson absolutely losing it, because they know they've lost all of their voters. And speaking of J.B. Pritzker being terrified, he's actually coming out and saying that he's terrified of President Donald Trump, because he's now coming for him and doing a little investigation into his voter rolls on his state to see if there are illegals voting within his election. I want you guys to see this guy try to squirm out of it. Listen to him.
Another thing that's happened, and very few people paying attention, you probably are, which is they demanded, the DOJ did, our voter data. Not just ours. In Illinois, every state's voter data. Why? They won't tell us why. And actually, what they seem to be looking for, remember back to the 2020 elections, is they want to be able to find voter fraud, which lots of organizations have been looking for voter fraud, as you know, for a long time. There's very little voter fraud going on, very little. They're calling for all these databases so that they can look through them, and yet they won't tell you when they're going to come up with any conclusion about whatever it is they're looking for.
Can you guys spot the fear on J.B. Pritzker's face? Because he knows he's guilty as can be, with President Trump now requesting that the DOJ collect all voter roll data from states across this country. And we already know what's going on over there in Illinois with J.B. Pritzker. There's a reason why he's constantly putting these illegals ahead of American citizens. It's because he's probably handing over voter registration left and right, and it's not going to get far. President Donald Trump is going to get to the bottom of it. Then we got J.B. Pritzker going on later in a statement saying, quote, "I am not afraid to be jailed by President Donald Trump." Well, you don't have to be afraid to get the cuff slapped slept on you is all I'm going to say.
It's true that the president says things and sometimes he follows through on those threats, and he certainly has the power of the presidency. He does not have the power to overcome the Constitution. And so am I afraid? I am not afraid. Do I think that he could do it? He might. But as I've said before, come and get me. I mean, you're dead wrong, Mr. President and Mr. Vice President. And I will stand up for the law and the Constitution. That's what we do in the state of Illinois.
And that right there is pure panic setting in for Governor J.B. Pritzker, because he knows the Trump administration is going to get to the bottom of it. They're not naive. They're not stupid. When they're requesting this data, it's because they're investigating something larger. And his days are just about numbered. But here's the kicker, guys. Even Chicago residents aren't on board with this fight against the Trump administration, coming from the Democratic leadership of their state and their city. And they're saying it best. With this one right here said it best. He says, quote, "If you're here illegally, you gotta go. Plain and simple." Check him out.
How do you feel about what's going on here?
I support it.
Why is that?
This is America, man. Got to do things the right way. That's it. Plain and simple.
What does that mean?
It means exactly what it sounds like. Got to do it the right way. You want to come here legally.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. How do you
That's
feel?
the bottom line.
How do you feel about due process?
You're getting into a sketchy line there you're trying to throw out.
I just asked you a question. How do you feel about due process?
I think due process is important in a lot of standings, but when you come down to the immigration, it's impossible.
Spoken like a true America First patriot. And he says it best. You know, if you're here illegally, you got to go. And it's just that simple. We're not talking about a due process. Now that you've cut the line and you know, skipped all these folks to get into our country illegally, you're not getting placed in a line on your way back out. There's the door. And it's just that simple. And it's not just white conservatives or folks on the right that are coming out and saying that they feel this way about illegal immigration. I want you guys to take it right here from an immigrant herself, a legal immigrant though, someone who did it the right way. They feel the same exact way. Listen.
That's how you manage a country. And it's not about hating people, myself as an immigrant. It's just about doing things the right way. As a lot of them have signs that said, no human is illegal. But once you enter the wrong way, doing it the proper way, you're breaking the law.
It's not a crime. You're not breaking the law. I mean, you are breaking the law, but it's not a criminal act.
Those laws are being broken left and right, and people are not being accountable. And it gets to the point where little by little starts growing and growing till it gets to a place where you can no longer live and be safe. In Mexico, they are doing mass deportations and they're using force. Nothing like you see here in the U.S. They're not pulling you over and checking out, let me see if you're legal to be here. No, they start beating you up and then they question you later.
We're there. That's happening.
Not even close. Crossing the border illegally, that's a crime. You don't see it that way, but I do.
And that right there is exactly what everyone who voted for President Donald Trump has been trying to get through to these loonies on the left. And I'm not sure if it's going to take for them to hear it from someone that is not a white conservative for them to understand if that's their hang up or disconnect. But that right there is the bottom line. If you came into our country, you didn't do it the correct way, you must go home because there is a process and a procedure in place. But you guys already know this has the internet in a full frenzy, and I just want to check in with some folks' reactions over there on X. So we're going to start off here with none other than Governor J.B. Pritzker tweeting out saying that Donald Trump's administration does not respect the Constitution. But they're learning that Illinois does not and will not bow under their tyranny. This guy is living far out there in La La Land because Donald Trump has done nothing but abide by the Constitution. It's these folks that continue to go against and incite violence against everyone who does not agree with them. It's sick. And then next up, we got Thomas on X tweeting out asking the question of, do governors like J.B. Pritzker and Gavin Newsom, who are clearly focusing their attentions on campaigning for president at the state's expense, feel that they should give up their roles as governor? I mean, they are basically using the state's time and money, and by using, he should have just said wasting, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're wasting resources with all these failed gotcha moments in order to try to claim their fame. It's not going to work. Why don't they just give it up and spare the people, spare the folks that voted them in, the folks of their states, because it's just sad the path that they're traveling. And last but certainly not least, we've got Lynn Couch here on X tweeting out saying, JB Pritzker, you have dirty hands. You will be caught. Liars, cheaters, and thieves always get caught sooner or later. Your time is coming. Look forward to the show. Are you supporting Antifa? Are you a thug? Like, what's going on here? And I feel like that's the question that's running through a lot of folks' minds at this point. Governor JB Pritzker clearly has some other interest in mind. Yo, there we have it, guys. Oh my goodness. Once again, we're seeing another one of these Democratic leaders. This time it's Governor JB Pritzker inciting violence against ICE agents and our federal troops who are simply just carrying out federal orders and trying to clean up, do the job that they're neglecting and they won't do. It's just so sad to see these folks want to stand and impede the process of making their states great because they hate President Donald Trump just that bad. And that right there is what I call that Trump derangement syndrome. And I believe that it is time to draw that line in the sand. There is no way that we continue to let this very inflammatory and dangerous rhetoric continue from these loonies on the left. We've seen exactly what that results in, and we're not going to stand for it anymore. The way that you nip this one in the bud is by holding one person accountable. Go ahead, prosecute, remove somebody from office, and I bet you the ones that follow won't go down that same road, guys. But definitely hop in that comment section. Comments are open, and I'm going to leave you guys with this question today. Do we see Governor JB Pritzker finally being held accountable for the very inflammatory and dangerous rhetoric that we're seeing when it comes to ICE and federal agents? Guys, hop in the comment section. Comments are open, and I'm excited to hear what you guys are thinking. Also, make sure you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy more content like this, we'll catch you guys on the next week.